Kate Middleton and Prince William win a case involving vacation photos with their kids.
Kate Middleton is reminiscing her blonde era.
Prince William's wife looks every bit the princess at the Nigerian state banquet at Windsor Castle.
Kate Middleton is serving up some royal wit. While attending the royal family's annual Christmas church service at Sandringham, the Princess of Wales turns a small mishap into a lighthearted moment.
I've never encountered anybody remotely like Kate.
The Princess of Wales joins her husband Prince William for a surprise appearance at Charing Cross Hospital.
This morning, the Princess of Wales back in the spotlight, joining the Irish Guards for their St. Patrick's Day parade.
Kate Middleton and Princess Charlotte teaming up for a surprise mother-daughter duet on the piano.
Kate Middleton is wearing her most meaningful jewelry in her first speech since she announced her cancer diagnosis.
Prince William and Kate Middleton are commemorating a major marriage milestone.
Makes a jaw-dropping entrance at a state dinner, rocking the biggest tiara she's ever worn.
This morning, the Princess of Wales meeting with the littlest, most enthusiastic beneficiaries of the program.
Kate Middleton is sharing a lifestyle change after her cancer battle.
Those are the bells at Westminster Abbey, playing in honor of the Princess of Wales. That's a rare honor.
Kate Middleton and Prince William are resuming a royal family tradition.
For the first time since beating cancer and returning to her royal duties, the Princess of Wales stepped out on her own.
Opening up about her cancer diagnosis, speaking candidly while visiting a hospital in Eastern England.
There's a moment, quiet, almost unremarkable from the outside, when a person stops preparing for a role and simply begins living it. For Catherine, that moment didn't come with an announcement. There was no formal declaration, no ceremony, no front page headline marking the shift. It happened gradually in private meetings and public appearances, in phone calls that weren't reported, and decisions made without fanfare. And the person who understood exactly what was happening, who watched it unfold with a clarity that few others possessed, was Queen Elizabeth herself. Rebecca English, one of the most closely sourced royal correspondents at the Daily Mail, has spent years documenting the private mechanics of how the monarchy actually functions. What she uncovered about Catherine's role in 2021 and 2022 wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a conflict. It was something rarer in royal coverage. A story about quiet devotion, expanding responsibility, and a queen who saw in her granddaughter-in-law something she recognized from her own early years on the throne. If you want more deep dives like this, make sure to subscribe to Royal Archives, because what Catherine carried during the Queen's final working year has never been fully told, and it matters far more than most people realize. By the autumn of 2021, something had shifted inside Buckingham Palace. The signals were subtle. A canceled engagement here, a modified schedule there, but those watching closely understood what they meant. Queen Elizabeth, then 95, was managing a body that was no longer cooperating with the demands of a working monarch. The mobility issues that had remained largely private were becoming harder to conceal. Walking aids, shorter appearances, a quieter public calendar than any in recent memory. What the public saw was a monarch gracefully slowing down. What those inside the institution saw was something more complicated, a transition that needed managing, a gap that needed filling, and a question that no one was asking out loud. Who steps in when the Queen cannot? The formal answer, of course, was Charles. The Prince of Wales had been preparing for succession his entire adult life, but succession and daily continuity are different things. What the monarchy needed in those months wasn't a future king. It needed someone who could represent the warmth and accessibility the Queen had always embodied, someone who could walk into a room and make people feel the institution was steady, present, and human. Catherine was already there. She just wasn't being credited for it. The year 2021 had been one of the heaviest in the modern monarchy's recent history. Prince Philip had died in April. The Oprah interview had aired in March, sending shockwaves through the institution that hadn't fully settled. Harry and Meghan had departed. Andrew's public standing had collapsed. The royal family entered the second half of 2021, carrying more weight than it had in years. And the Queen, dealing with that weight while managing her own physical decline, needed people she could trust absolutely. That need was specific. The Queen had always been surrounded by aides, advisors, and senior family members. What she needed in this period was something different. Someone who understood the emotional register of the monarchy, not just its operational structure. Someone who could be present in the right way at the right moment without being asked. Charles was heir. William was future king. But Catherine was something the institution rarely produces. A person who had absorbed its values without being born into its pressures. It is worth remembering what the Queen herself had done in 1952 when she stepped into the role of monarch at 25, with almost no formal preparation for what awaited her. She had learned by doing. She had absorbed, adapted, and carried the weight of an institution still finding its footing in the post-war world. 70 years later, watching Catherine move through the same process, disciplined, attentive, unhurried, the Queen recognized something she knew intimately, the willingness to carry without complaint, the understanding that the institution always mattered more than the moment. Catherine had been building that trust for years, quietly, methodically, without the drama that had surrounded others in her position. What Rebecca English's reporting captures, and what gets lost in more surface-level royal coverage, is the texture of how Catherine's expanded role actually worked. It wasn't handed to her in a briefing. There was no memo that said, "Take on more." It was organic, relational, and deeply personal to the Queen's own way of operating. Those close to the household during this period noted that Catherine had developed what one aide described as an instinct for the institution. She understood protocol not as a set of rules to follow, but as a living framework that served a purpose. She knew when to step forward and when to hold back. She knew how the Queen liked things done. And more importantly, why? This mattered in practical terms. When the Queen was unable to attend certain regional engagements in late 2021, Catherine didn't just substitute. She prepared. She studied the briefings with a thoroughness that surprised even seasoned palace staff. She arrived at events knowing the names of the people she would meet, the history of the institutions she was visiting, the specific significance of each moment to the community involved. Staff who traveled with her during this period noted something that rarely makes it into print, that Catherine asked questions after engagements, not just before them. She wanted to know what had landed, what had missed, what the Queen would have done differently. She was learning in real time, using every appearance as a tutorial in the kind of monarchy the Queen had spent 70 years building. There was also a physical dimension to this preparation that went largely unnoticed. Catherine had begun studying the Queen's own technique, the way she moved through a room, the way she balanced genuine warmth with appropriate distance, the way she could make a brief exchange feel like a real conversation without surrendering the dignity the role required. Staff noted that Catherine was not imitating, she was understanding, and that distinction mattered enormously to everyone watching. The Remembrance Sunday service at the Cenotaph in November 2021 offered one of the clearest early signals of how much had shifted. The Queen, unable to stand at the memorial as she had for decades, watched from a balcony above. Below, in the formal line of royals, Catherine stood with a composure that those present described as extraordinary, not because it was performed, but because it was earned. She had been preparing for exactly this kind of moment, and she was ready. And the Queen noticed. By early 2022, the communication between them had grown more direct, less filtered through aides, less formal in its structure. The Queen, who had always maintained a certain careful distance even with family, had begun treating Catherine less like a granddaughter-in-law, navigating the institution, and more like a colleague she trusted to understand it. The Platinum Jubilee of June 2022 would become the most visible expression of everything that had been building quietly for months. 4 days of national celebration, the most ambitious public program the monarchy had attempted in years, and at its center, a Queen whose health was now a genuine logistical concern. Not a secret exactly, but something the palace was managing carefully, appearance by appearance, hour by hour. Catherine's role during those 4 days was not simply ceremonial. Behind the choreography of balcony appearances and state ceremonies, she was functioning as something closer to an anchor. When the Queen appeared publicly, Catherine was positioned physically, strategically, to support without overshadowing. When the Queen did not appear, Catherine was present in her place, carrying the emotional weight of the occasion without allowing it to feel like a substitution. There is a photograph from the Jubilee Thanksgiving service at St. Paul's Cathedral. The Queen was absent that morning, her mobility having made the long service impractical. The image shows Catherine at the center of the family group, composed, attentive, holding the occasion steady. No visible strain, no performance of calm, just calm. Rebecca English, who covered the Jubilee extensively, noted in her reporting the degree to which Catherine had become the connective tissue of the family's public presentation. Not the headline. The structure beneath the headline. That distinction between being seen and being load-bearing is exactly the kind of thing that doesn't make front pages. It's the kind of contribution that only becomes visible in retrospect when you look back at a period and ask, who kept this together? Palace insiders who spoke to English during this period were consistent on one point. Catherine's composure during the Jubilee was not performance. It was the product of months of quiet preparation that most of the watching world knew nothing about. What makes this story more than a catalogue of quiet service is what it reveals about the Queen's own thinking during her final months as a working monarch. Elizabeth II had spent her entire reign managing the tension between what the monarchy needed to project and what was actually happening inside it. She was, by every account of those who knew her, a supremely practical woman. She did not indulge sentiment at the expense of function. When she identified someone who could serve the institution, she found ways to expand their role, not through grand gestures, but through the accumulation of small, trusted moments. Her relationship with Catherine in 2021 and 2022 followed exactly that pattern. The phone calls that became more frequent. The engagements where Catherine was quietly briefed in ways that went beyond standard preparation. The moments, documented by those present, where the Queen offered not just instruction but something closer to confidence. A private acknowledgement that what Catherine was carrying, she was carrying well. Those who observed this shift from inside the household described it in terms that carried real weight. The Queen, they said, had begun treating Catherine not as the future, but as someone already needed in the present. That is a different kind of trust. It is not the trust you give to a successor. It is the trust you give to someone doing the work alongside you. There were harder moments too. The autumn of 2021 brought not just physical challenges for the Queen, but institutional ones. The fallout from the Oprah interview continued to reverberate. Questions about the monarchy's relevance, its diversity, its ability to modernize without fracturing. These were not abstract debates. They were live pressures, and the Queen felt them. Catherine's response to this pressure was characteristically to absorb rather than react. She did not make public statements about the family's divisions. She did not perform reconciliation. She simply continued showing up to engagements, to causes she had built over years, to the quiet work of representing the monarchy in communities that needed to feel it was still present and still real. Her early years' work, which had been building steadily since 2018, took on a new dimension during this period. The research she had commissioned, the partnerships she had formed, the public case she had been making for early childhood development. All of it signaled something the palace understood, even if the public didn't yet. Catherine was not waiting to be needed. She was already building the kind of legacy that would anchor the monarchy's relevance for a generation. And in doing so, she gave the institution something it badly needed in that moment. Evidence that it could still function with grace under pressure. By the summer of 2022, the shape of what was coming was clear to almost everyone inside the institution, even if it remained unspoken outside it. The Queen's public appearances had become rare, each one carefully managed, each one carrying the weight of possible finality. Catherine had moved, without announcement, without ceremony, into the role she had been preparing for, without knowing the timeline. The Commonwealth Games in Birmingham that July became a moment that crystallized something many had been sensing. The Queen, unable to attend the opening ceremony in person, delivered her message via video. In her place, on the ground representing the monarchy in one of its most significant annual gatherings was Catherine, standing where the Queen would have stood, carrying what the Queen would have carried. Those who were present in Birmingham noted the precision with which Catherine held that responsibility. She was not filling a gap. She was fulfilling a function, one she had been quietly equipped for through months of expanded trust and institutional preparation. Rebecca English's coverage of this period consistently noted what others were slower to acknowledge, that Catherine's expanded presence was not spontaneous. It had been shaped over months through a relationship with the Queen that went far deeper than the public understood. The trust was earned, the preparation was real, and the transition, when it came, was less a sudden shift than the visible surface of something that had been quietly underway for the better part of a year. By August 2022, those inside the palace understood that what they were witnessing was no longer a preparation for the future. It was already the present. When the Queen traveled to Balmoral that summer, her final journey to the Scottish estate she had loved since childhood, the institution she left behind in London was already operating differently than it had 2 years before. Catherine was a different presence within it, more trusted, more load-bearing, more known. Queen Elizabeth II died on September 8, 2022 at Balmoral. In the days that followed, the monarchy had to function through grief while simultaneously demonstrating that it could function at all. The institution that had been built around one woman for 70 years had to show quickly, convincingly, that it would hold. It held. And part of why it held was what Catherine had been doing in the months before anyone outside the palace fully grasped what was happening, the relationship she had built, the institutional knowledge she had accumulated, the trust she had earned, not from the public, not yet, but from the woman who had sat at the center of the monarchy for 7 decades and understood better than anyone what it needed to survive. The Queen had seen something in Catherine long before the cameras caught up with it. She had given her more, asked more of her, trusted her with the kind of quiet responsibility that doesn't come with a title or a headline. In her final working year, that trust became something the monarchy would need to survive what came next. Catherine didn't step up in September 2022. She had already stepped up, quietly, methodically, in the way the Queen had always preferred things done. That's the story Rebecca English documented. And it's a story that still shapes everything happening inside that institution today. If this kind of deep, behind-the-scenes royal history is what you come here for, subscribe to Royal Archives. There's far more still to tell.